Hello, welcome to Thor Talk, the show all about Marvel's resident God of Thunder. On this episode of Thor Talk, Thor finds himself face to face with himself, with a parody brought to life by magic that Marvel presents as the real Thor. This is Thor stripped away of his wits until he becomes a joke that audiences will pay money to see. We'll see if Thor can overcome this god of love and thunder on Thor Talk.
I am Thor the Thunderer, son of Odin, Prince of Asgard, and this world is under my protection.
The Immortal Thor number 10 was written by Al Ewing and was published in May of 2024. The issue begins with a stanza from the Viking Age poem Havamal and reads as follows. Cattle die, kindred die, we ourselves also die, but I know one thing that never dies, judgment on each one dead. Havamal is a collection of the god Odin's wise sayings. This particular one is probably the most famous saying from the poem. The meaning of the stanza is that in the end, everything dies. The cattle you tend, the kinsmen you cherish, and even you yourself. But your reputation, tales of your deeds, will live on long after your death. The stanza applies to this issue in multiple ways. In this issue, cattle, kindred, and Thor himself all die. Dario Agger is a minotaur, or cattle, and he dies. The keep is Thor's kindred since he was created from Thor's mortal form, and he becomes Thor himself, and he dies as well. However, while all these things die, reputation lives on, and is a major focus of this story. The Roxon Thor comic is changing the way Thor is perceived. It's changing his reputation. And Amora's plan is centered around hurting Thor's reputation. In his hands, Thor holds a comic book. But this is no mere periodical. It is an artifact, a thing of magic, a thing that could destroy him and make him anew. The Enchantress has used story magic to create a new, simpler version of Thor, one that is more appealing to the masses and more profitable. Now this Roxon Thor stands before Thor in the flesh. The Enchantress has changed the story of Thor, and it's even affecting the real Thor. He can't think properly. My own thoughts babble at me. Keep on thinking that. Roxon Thor brags that he has all of Thor's cool stuff. His Thor truck, his Mjolnir premium. You can keep it. Odin, help me! All I can think is banter. No meaning, no substance. Or is there? Thor truck. Keep on trucking. Find the meaning, Odin's son. Keep it together. Keep. You're the keep. Thor realizes that this parody of himself is Enchantress's familiar, the Keep. She created him as a substitute for Scourge, and now that Scourge is back, the Keep needed a new role, and the Roxon Thor needed a physical form. In my video on the last issue, I said I thought that Ewing was criticizing the MCU with this story. And now I'm pretty certain that's exactly what's happening. Thor's mind is being infected by MCU banter and quips, but he's still able to work through the nonsense to figure out who his opponent is. The Roxon Thor has taken physical form, but he is actually a familiar face. Thor realizes that he is the Keep. Keep is a creature created by the Enchantress in the Mighty Thor number 15. At the time he first appeared, it seemed like the Keep would be a big deal. Not only did he fulfill Scourge's long-dormant role as Amora's lover and executioner, but he was created using the body of Thor's mortal form, Donald Blake. However, the Keep only appeared in 4 issues, and then never showed up again. Until now, of course. I like the idea of including the Keep since it was kind of weird that he just disappeared without explanation, and it makes more sense why Amora is able to create a Thor. The Keep is made from Donald Blake's body, from Thor's mortal form, so there's already a dormant connection that she can build from. Play your games, I will win them. In the end, all you have is a false Thor holding a false Mjolnir. That's Mjolnir Premium. Well, that just happened. That's gonna leave a mark. The keep was already strong, but this story magic has strengthened him even more. How can I beat him without a single original thought in my head? How can I... He's right behind me, isn't he? The Roxon Thor looms over him, calling him out of date and out of style, whereas Roxon Thor is the fresh #1 seller of the company. Thor turns to his shallow self. He cannot think beyond cliches, so he'll use that. Don't think, feel. The sneering keep brags that he's the Thor of this pathetic plastic world now. What did you say about my mother? In the last issue, Thor wasn't doing so well in battle due to Amora's spell affecting him. He was getting slower and couldn't think clearly since he was constantly trying to fight off his own thoughts. We see the spell is now getting stronger, as the thoughts he was trying to fight off are seeping into his mind. Quips, one-liners, banter. He's being turned into an MCU character. But he finally comes up with a solution. He decides not to rely on his confusing thoughts, on his mind, but to act on feeling and instinct. This marks the turning point of the battle, since from this moment on, Thor is never even hit, and will dominate the fight from this point on. The keep screams in pain and calls to Amora as the spell starts to fail. The enchantress picks up the cursed comic and casts a spell that makes the keep the focal point of the story magic. This will fix the keep in his Thor form, but there may be consequences if the keep is destroyed. The enchantress says that Thor's the merciful sort, who won't be quick to take a life in anger, but if some dark force has addled his wits, then all bets are off. Dario Agger pities the keep, but says sacrifices must be made, and it's better if those sacrifices are the little people. Business is cutthroat, and somebody has got to be at the sharp end. So it goes. And so it went. The keep surges with power, saying that now he has the advantage. The Roxon Thor is a clean, simple concept, but Thor is a mess. He has to be a wise king, a kind brother, a noble hero. The Roxon Thor just has to be strong. He just has to be Thor. The Roxon Thor is again pretty clearly a parody of the MCU Thor, but also a critique of the way Marvel has handled him. Thor was overall pretty well adapted into the MCU at the beginning, as a heroic, humble, and wise protector. But when the character wasn't doing as well with audiences as Marvel would have liked, they completely changed him. Guardians of the Galaxy did well, so suddenly he became a comedic character. A dumb, prideful oaf who stumbled his way through goofy adventures until eventually even Chris Hemsworth admitted that he became a parody of himself. Everything about him was changed except the fact that, on paper, he was Thor, and he still had Thor's things. This Roxon Thor is the same. He's nothing like Thor except the fact that he is strong. He has Thor's cool stuff, and I am Thor! I know you are, but what am I? Batter up. No. No. I am... Holy crap, is that Thor? Yes, I am. Then stand, Thor. Stand if you would bear the weight of my name as others have. Stand as they did. And look death in the eye! Oh no. Dozens of civilians are gathering to watch and are live streaming the fight. The enchantress smiles, seeing that Thor has made a spectacle of this. On the ground, Dario Agger lies dead with Thor's axe in his back. Scourge did his part, and now Amora will do hers. She casts a few spells to restructure the Roxon employees' memories and becomes Astrid Mora, the new vice president of Roxon. Astrid calls security to Agger's office, as something dreadful has happened. So marks the end of Dario Agger, and I think it's a fitting end. Agger has been sacrificing the lives of his employees without a second thought. He fed one of his most loyal workers to a monster just because that monster didn't want to wait another hour for food. Now, Dario Agger finds himself being killed without remorse by an ally in order to achieve their plans. Agger was nothing but helpful to them, and yet he still receives the axe. He's even talking about how the way business works is that someone often has to be sacrificed right before he dies. I was pretty sure from the beginning that Amora and Scourge only ever saw Agger as a means to an end, and that's even more true than I initially thought, as we'll soon see. Is that fear in your voice, Thor?
Stay back! I'm warning you.
Perhaps it is I who should warn you, Keep. Here. My warning shot.
Whoa, this is brutal. You have your Mjolnir. I have mine. Mjolnir Premium. Feel its power now.
That's not a hammer. Mjolnir. To me. This is a hammer. The Keep stammers that he is the canonical Thor, the officially licensed Thor, but Thor reminds him that others have used his name before, and this dishonors them. This will not stand. Let the world see the true form of Enchantress's puppet. Come, my great servant, heed the words of thy true lord and liege.
Don't.
Too late to beg. Come the storm, come in thy full fury, in the full measure of my power. For Thor, All-Father, gives you full permission to burn this pretender away! "'Tis done." The civilians look on in shock as Thor has killed Thor. Thor reassures them that this is the Keep and he cannot truly die, and soon his disguise will fade. But it doesn't. He remains immortal, dead at Thor's hand. Thor's mind still buzzes with nonsense, but the false Thor's end may have cleared his mind enough to reclaim his axe.
Tormod! To
Me?
Did the murder weapon just fly out the window?
At last, the Enchantress's plan has borne fruit, and the trap around Thor closed. It's not what it looks like. Thor has gotten himself into a rather precarious situation, as Amora's plan has been revealed. After reading the last issue, I thought this was all to get Tormod and Mjolnir so that Scourge could take Thor's doom from him. Maybe that is still part of their ultimate goal, but this part of their plan sees Thor getting framed for the murder of Dario Agger and tricked into killing the canonical Thor. Amora's spell was corrupting Thor's mind, and he thought he found a solution when he decided to rely more on feeling than his thoughts. However, this backfired, as he relied on his rage over the Keep being the lesser Thor, rather than considering the consequences. The original Keep is nearly invincible, and as Thor says, he should not be able to truly die. But this Keep is different, and Thor wasn't thinking about how this could change the outcome. Thor has killed a hero on live feed, and then summons the weapon that just killed a wealthy businessman. So what is Amora's endgame here? I don't know. Again, it could all be tied to getting Thor's weapons away from him. She could be trying to keep him away from Midgard, or she could be trying to keep his Midgardian allies away from him. I don't know. What I do know is that while I did enjoy this issue overall, I'm not a huge fan of the art. Carlos Magno is now the third artist to work on the series, and he's my least favorite of the three. To be fair, Kokalo and Robertson are hard acts to follow up, but some of it just doesn't look great to me. There are some good panels to be sure, but I can't get behind it overall. It looks like Kokalo is finally returning in the next issue, so that's a plus at least. Overall, again, I did like the issue. I'm all for Ewing breaking the trend of comics bending to the MCU changes, but instead standing against the bad changes. I really like that the Keep was brought back, even if he was immediately killed off. Dario Agger was given a poetic death, and Amora's plan is clever, even if I don't know her endgame. But I'm excited to see it nonetheless. Well, that's all for this episode of Thor Talk. I hope you enjoyed it and the issue. What do you think Amora's plan is? Because I don't know, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts. With that said, see you next time on Thor Talk, where...
Behold in breathless